And of course, part of this is using a precise verb. Do you remember the next part? Right. Hook to an overview line. And like I said, if we talk about this author and title and use that precise verb, then a lot of times this overview line can be just a phrase or a clause that serves as a direct object of our sentence. Like that, most of the examples I showed you at work like that. And if you do this on only one sentence, I mean, if you take 3 sentences to do it, then it defeats the purpose of having a formula. Okay? Because that's what we're trying to get away from. Because we can't, there's only so much you can cover in the first line. But if you mention the name of the thing, if it has a name, or mention one of those key concepts and, launch yourself appropriately into the discussion, it just gives you a better start. So, what? Yeah, well, run-on sentences are caused usually by not punctuating correctly. So you could, whether you punctuated correctly or not, it could lead you into something that at least sounds like it's running on too long, or what we might call over-rambling, just rambling on. Because, you can't cover, as long as you do that stuff in the overview line, the little phrase or clause that is appropriate, then if you're getting ready to talk about the details, you can't cover it all in the first line. And then, just kind of the next line, then go from there. Okay, what do we do after that? Okay, I know how to make a lead in. Generally, when you're writing research papers, for instance, and you're talking about your sources, and you do that lead in, then you're wanting to make your points about, it might be certain facts or ideas that you're trying to bring out of the source's work, and you want to talk about them in some way, make comments about them, or even evaluate or analyze them in some way. But the thing is, you're going to be using, there are several ways to use your sources, and we'll see a slide on that here in a minute. But you can't overburden your paper with quotes. When you do a research paper, and this is just generally, just a sort of a general rule of thumb, at least 75% or so of that paper should be in your own words, in your own voice, in your own style. And so a lot of what you're going to need to do in writing research paper is that you need to paraphrase. Paraphrase is when you take what the source said and put it in your own words. And like I said, you cannot keep quoting everything. You do want a few direct quotes. Could be a few 2 or 3 line quotes, even a longer one. Or you can just incorporate a half a line or even a phrase or clause of direct quote from your source into your own sentences. But most of this paper, I mean, whether you go with another instructor may say, oh, well, it could be 70%. Other instructors might say, oh, it ought to be 80% your words. But 75% is just sort of a rough estimate. And so, if only 20 to 25% of your paper can be directly quoted, then that means 75% or so has to be text created by you. So you will have to use paraphrase, because paraphrase is that activity that involves looking at what the source said and putting it into your own words. Paraphrase isn't just, oh, let's change the from to or by, or of, and let's change the for to and we'll call it paraphrase. That would probably still be plagiaristic. So you want to avoid plagiarism at all costs. And so that means that a lot of what you're doing in a research paper is paraphrasing and summarizing. Because if it was not that way, if we could just fill up our paper with direct quotes from this person, direct quotes from that person, then that doesn't prove that we can write at all. It just proves that we can read and type what we read. And a lot of the real work with research papers is the synthesis involved with looking at all these varied sources and trying to think, well, what does this tell me? and then presenting that information. So a lot of what you need to do is that you'll need to use careful paraphrase to explain some of the ideas from your sources that you want your readers to know. And just remember to cite sources appropriately, whether you're quoting, paraphrasing, or summarizing.